everyone is vulnerable. Mind your fences. You know those white picket fences? They're there for a reason. You keep the other people out.
So why do couples in happy relationships have affairs?
So we tend to assume that affairs takes place only in problematic relationship. But what happens when it happens in really, good relationship? So let me start with a couple that I, saw recently. They came to see me for infidelity counseling. And George is a neuroscientist. He says to me, I love my wife. She is the great person that I have. She's a great friend, great mom, great lover. And you know what? I have been on a trip in Thailand. And you know what? Suddenly, I found myself in a situation that I never thought I'll be. He said that because he's a neuroscientist, he said, my lizard brain convinced his colleagues, let's have something over there. And here you go, I'll find myself cheating on my wife while being there in Thailand. He was sobbing. He says, I'm devastated. Have been faithful to my wife for 30 years. I was really carried my kind of lust to other women. And here we go. One time, I made that mistake. Now, she's totally broken. The relationship is shattered. She wants to leave me. One mistake, do I deserve that? What shall I do? And for me, this is just kind of like a great example of how basically the affairs in happy relationship were not designed necessarily to withdraw or disconnect from your partner, because you want to really connect to something that you lost within yourself. It could be passion, it could be freedom, something else. And it's more about that.
I think I do a lot of work with couples in those situations. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is that many people believe it will never happen to them. I'm a good person, I love my wife, I love my husband. And it's a myth, because everyone is vulnerable. I don't ever want to be tested. I love my husband, we have a good relationship, we're committed. But you know what? Sometimes when somebody, a man interesting, wants to hear what I have to say, I'm flattered. It gets my attention. What a nice guy. Time out, exit stage left, because anyone is vulnerable under the wrong set of circumstances on the wrong day. And it happens to so many people. I had a woman once come in and she just was sobbing, she said, because her husband was having an affair. I used to go to church and I used to see people coming there and I knew they were having affairs and I thought they were really bad people. I never thought it would happen to me. We're all vulnerable in today's world especially, and men and women have freedoms they've never had. So I tell everybody, and because I was asked a question, if you only have one thing to tell a couple getting married, what would it be? I was like, I don't know, that's a big one. But I said, everyone is vulnerable. Mind your fences. Those white picket fences, they're there for a reason. You keep the other people out. You keep your attention here. And when these things happen, you've got to share it with each other. And there are many stories about that. So I think that's a very important part that has nothing to do, that's just our naivete about sex.
I think also that we're all vulnerable for evolutionary reasons. I've looked at adultery in over 40 societies. You find it in everyone, even where you can get your head chopped off or be stoned to death. Why is that? And even when it's a happy marriage, and even when you feel fulfilled, et cetera, how come? Why did this evolve so that we all struggle with it? And my hypothesis in this book is that we've evolved what I call a dual human reproductive strategy, a tremendous drive to fall in love, form a pair bond, rear our children as a team, but also a predisposition to adultery, because for millions of years, there were some genetic payoffs. A man who had an extra woman with 2 more children put more of his DNA into tomorrow. A woman who had sex with an extra man had an insurance policy in case her husband died or deserted her. So through millions of years of being adulterous and some of the genetic payoffs, having more babies that pass this on, we all have this predisposition. You don't have to respond to it. I mean, people are predisposed to alcoholism and can give up drinking, but it's almost valuable what you just said, to know that nobody is really safe and that you have to, just like you say, do the time, have all kinds of little ways of saying, whoop, this is going to go down the wrong direction,
And I think building off of what you each said, it's being able to recognize when you have that, oh, I was attracted to that man at the cashier, or I was flattered by something that someone said. And so something I do, because I'm aware of that we're all vulnerable, is if I felt a certain way or I liked the attention that I got from someone, I'll go home and tell my husband about it. And then that actually brings us closer together because we talk about it. And so my piece of advice is that happiness is an emotion. It's not static, it's fleeting, the same way that joy or sadness or anger is. And so we can't expect to be happy all of the time in our relationships. Happiness needs to be created intentionally. And when we're feeling disconnected, as in all couples go through kind of some slumps, in some of those moments, some couples look towards their partner and they say, hey, I'm feeling disconnected, or I really like the attention that I got from someone else today. But some of the couples who may be at risk for infidelity are those that are not able to have the communication where they say, hey, I was attracted to my coworker, I'm fantasizing about someone else, I'm feeling disconnected, we haven't had sex in a month and my sexual needs aren't being met. So I think that's kind of the difference. There's happy couples, but happiness isn't a permanent state. So when you hit those slumps, can you turn towards each other to say, let's repair this? Or do you turn and kind of cross the boundaries of your relationship?
So modern marriage is complicated, and it sounds like everybody to some degree is at a risk for an affair. If you want to protect your marriage from an affair, you need to spend time with your spouse, listen to the panel, have lots of sex. It gets better.